Well, hello, wonderful students. Welcome back to Metabolism and the Metabolism unit. And we're going to be in lesson 3.1, learning about energy release in the body. So first off, we're going to go into your warm-up. Remember to pause it after each activity so that you can go ahead and go back to Amplify and complete these parts of the lesson in your Amplify app. Okay, so for your warm up, you guys looked at the test results and you compared them with the sim for a healthy body. And now what you're going to do is you're going to analyze some of the test results from ELISA. So you're going to analyze these test results up here and you're going to answer this question. If you noticed, I jumped back into Amplify so you would see what you're working on in the warm up. Compared to the cells in the healthy body, ELISA cells are getting far fewer what molecules? Looking at this data, what do you see she's getting less of? How do you think getting fewer of these molecules is going to help make her more tired? And explain your ideas in your warm up. So pause the video here and go ahead and answer your warm up question. So we're going to go on to activity 2, considering claims about energy release. So we know that Elisa is feeling extremely tired, and based on what you did in analysis, we now know that she has diabetes, a condition that prevents glucose from entering into her cells. Why would having low glucose in her cells make her feel tired? What do the molecules in your cells have to do with your energy level? Well, that's what we're going to be investigating in this next part of this unit. So we're going to look at the chapter 3 question. How do molecules in the cells of the body release energy? So we can go back and we can find out about why this is preventing her from being able to have energy in her body. So we're going to focus on this. This is today's investigation question. Which molecules do cells need to release energy? So first, I want you and your group to discuss these claims and decide which one you think is correct. Now, each of you should individually choose your own, and then I want you to come back as a group, and you can work in a group of 4 or you can work in a group of 2, but I want you to share your claim that you chose and why you chose that claim. And here's the part of activity 2 where you choose that claim. So pause the video and work with your partners to answer that question. Okay, so we're going to move on to activity 3, which is when you are going to gather evidence from your heart rate and your breath rates. So you guys are going to actually do a little activity. You're going to need to borrow a stopwatch, and you will need to grab that from the teacher, but wait until you are done listening to what you need to do first. We'll be gathering evidence today to help figure out which claim is best supported. So we'll start by observing what happens in our bodies when we increase our activity level by running in place. Since movement requires energy, we can see what happens to the body when we use more energy. Now remember, we have 6 claims. I'm going to go back to these for just a moment. That cells need glucose to release energy, that cells need amino acids to release energy, we need oxygen to release energy, we need glucose and amino acids to release energy, or we need glucose and oxygen to release energy, or last but not least, we need all 3 types of molecules to release energy. So that would be glucose, amino acids, and oxygen. So let's go back into our activity 3. So you're going to observe your heart rate and your breath rate before and after you run in place. So the heart rate is basically the number of beats in a certain amount of time, and the breath rate is the number of breaths taken in a certain amount of time. That's why we call it a rate, because it's the amount of something in a certain amount of time. So that's why it's called a rate. So what could changes to your heart rate and breath rate tell you about what is going on in your body? Talk with your group about that, and you can pause that here to discuss and come up with some answers to why your heart rate and breath rate will help tell you what's going on in your body. Okay, welcome back. So you guys may have said something about that blood is pumping faster or slower when you're moving faster or you're moving slower. And that could mean that you get more or less oxygen because your blood is flowing at a different rate. Maybe that's what you said. So we're going to observe that breath rate and see what we find going on. So first, to put your finger underneath your nose, just like this girl is doing right here. Observe your heart rate by finding your pulse. So first thing you want to do is that's what you're going to do is put your finger underneath your nose to get your breath and observe your heart rate by putting your finger on your neck where your main vessel is, or on your wrist, like right below your wrist on your hand. You're going to exercise. So you're going to need to run in place for 1 minute. You're going to want to lift your knees as high as you can and as fast as you can, and make sure you're paying attention to your timer since you guys will be timing your own. As soon as you stop the exercise, observe your breath rate and heart rate again, just like you did before. And then you want to make sure that you jot these down somewhere. If you want to grab like a scratch sheet of paper, jot them down quickly so that you can look at or compare your beginning breath rate and heart rate to your ending heart rate and breath rate. And you want to see how they changed after you exercise. So again, to observe your heart rate, you just take 2 fingers and you can either place them right here on your neck. You want to find where you feel your heartbeat in your neck, right? You have a main artery there, or um, you have main blood flow there in your circulatory system, so you should be able to feel it there, or in your wrist right below your wrist, that is. So if you want to get help, you can always feel free to ask me, but move your fingers around and see if you can find a steady heartbeat, or like a pump. You can feel it kind of pulsing underneath your fingers so that you can count it in your 1 minute of time. So you're going to go ahead and pause the video here. Make sure you guys are looking at activity 3 on your lesson. It looks like this, and it's going to tell you step by step what you need to do. And remember to record your breath rate and your heart rate in the beginning, and then you're going to record it in the end so that you can compare your observations just like we discussed. And you can pause the video here to go ahead and do that activity. Okay, so you should make sure you discuss with your group what happened to your breath rate and which molecule is taken into the body from the air every time we breathe. Why do you think the respiratory system took in more of this molecule while you were running? So let's ask the same questions of your heart rate, but maybe a little different because it's heart rate. What happened to your heart rate? Did it change? What does the increased heart rate tell us about the circulatory system? And why do you think the circulatory system was pumping blood faster when you were running? So pause the video here and discuss this with your group members. Okay, we're going to go on to activity 4, where you gather more information or evidence from your sim. So you're going to use that metabolism sim to get more evidence about the relationship between energy and molecules that are getting to the cells. So we observed that running, you used more energy when you were running, and our heart and breath rates actually increased, but you didn't directly observe what was happening with the molecules inside of our body. So we're going to jump inside of your body using this model since we can't see it. That's what's great about models. We can use those to help us understand our body. You will conduct 3 tests in the sim to determine which molecules are needed in the cells for energy release. In this test, you will eliminate one molecule, either glucose, oxygen, or amino acids, and see how that affects your body. So you're going to notice that the first row of the table is already done for you. So you can see the control test where they kept all 3 and gave one breath. Well, they put the breath on and gave 1 fish and 1 corn as food. And this is what happened by the end of the trial. And you want to see if there's any change from this control, being that this has all 3. If you take out the glucose, does it change? If you take out the amino acids, does it change? And if you take out the oxygen, does it change? Because you're going to be feeding the same thing. You're going to be feeding the thing that is linked with each thing each time. So like glucose, you're going to feed fish. Okay, and see, because that's taking out the glucose. And then you're going to feed corn, which is taking out the amino acids, because you would get those from meat, right? Glucose, you would get those from starch. Well, fish is protein, so we're not getting it from that. And then without oxygen, you need the protein and the starch in order to get what you need for energy, but you're going to take away the oxygen. So your sim is designed so that when there is not enough energy being released in the cells, the activity level drops. And by measuring how long the body can keep jogging, we're actually indirectly measuring how much energy is being released in the cells. So please make sure you hop back into activity 4 and complete the sim and answer the questions that go along with the sim at the bottom on that table we just showed you. And pause the video here to finish activity 4 before we start activity 5. Okay, so in this activity, you're going to be revising your claims. So what does that mean? Well, you collected evidence from two sources. You actually did exercise with your own body and with the sim. Now you're going to look back at the claims and discuss which claim you think our new evidence best supports. And it's okay if you've changed your mind because scientists do that all the time and they revise their claims when they get new evidence. So hop back in, decide what claim that you decide now is correct, and explain how that supports your evidence. Remember, you need to discuss this with your partner and come up with an answer to this. And remember, having those conversations is really going to help you to have more evidence and more understanding because you have different perspectives. So I'm going to look at this key concept with you guys. You should make sure that you pause the video to go ahead and do this activity before I do the key concept. So in order to release energy, cells need both glucose and oxygen molecules. We know that she had low glucose molecules in her cells because she had diabetes. The evidence that you gathered reveals that ELISA's low levels contribute to her extreme tiredness. We'll continue to learn more about how energy is released in the cell in the next lesson. I'm going to show you the homework. If you have not finished activity 5, you should pause it here. And now I'm going to go on to that activity 6. Now remember, this is a should do, so make sure you're checking Amplify and Canvas. You're checking Canvas to see what you need to do in completing things in Amplify. But for this activity, you're going to run an additional sim test where you compare two different activity levels. And then you're going to record the results in your table. So you're going to look at resting and jogging. So you're going to look at a body at rest and then a body that's jogging to be able to figure out what's going to be the difference and how big of a difference it is for a healthy body. So we've hit the end of the lesson, so make sure you go back into Canvas and check and see what you need to complete there.